Everybody's going, what? Good morning. We are live, and I forgot to hit the live button. I'm sorry. So I will introduce Marsh. For those listening, are going to be listening to this show. We serve authors here at Spotlight Publishing, really helping them to become known and use their book as a tool for business growth. So we often interview two guests on each show. This show is quite different. We're celebrating a very, very big accomplishment with the launch of a book that's called, and Marsh, you got to hold yours up too.
Yeah. You know, I will. Yes. So proud
Amazing.
of it. Very
Amazing good. Woman, it's your time to emerge. And I am actually one of the authors in the book along with Marsh, and there's many other contributors to the book. There's 8 main authors and then quite a few that added their little special piece of magic. Mm-hmm. But I would like to properly introduce Marsh and really give you the essence of who she is, what she does in the world, and the wisdom and the expertise that she so graciously brings to the world. I will start with a quote and then reading her bio, because I want to make sure that I don't miss all the amazing things that she does. She says, as we discover the true power of our sacred work, we assess a deeper sense of connection, value, and creativity that can and will transform our lives, our communities, and the world. Mm-hmm. And that statement, that is so powerful, because that is precisely the work that she brings to the world. So since 2001, Marsh Engle's books, coaching programs, and live events have been recognized for their unparalleled capacity to move women to design influential brands, launch successful purpose-driven ventures, and lead inspired lives of impact. She is passionately committed to threading creative spiritual practice into the very fabric of career development and business leadership. As the founder of the Amazing Woman Nation, Marsh Engle is dedicated to elevating and celebrating every woman's purpose and creativity by curating a multimedia collection of educational programs, engaging events, published books, and social impact campaigns positioned to move millions. Mm-hmm. Her pioneer work in the field of women's success leadership bridges both the internal and external aspects of creativity and contribution. As the creator of Amazing Woman Legacy book series, Marsh brings together a collective of purpose-driven entrepreneurs, mentors, and changemakers in a series of published books designed to elevate the lives and the success of women. With that, I welcome you, Marsh, to the show.
Thank you, Becky.
To honor you for what you have done. And I know I've been working with you on being coached by you for a number of months now, and it has really changed. It changed me, but it also changed the way I serve, what I bring to the world too. And today, this is such a celebration as we celebrate this book launch. And so what's the inspiration? I know you have a rich history of working with women and doing many things throughout your life that has really impacted society. And I'd like for you to share some of that.
Thank you, Becky. I just want to go back to what you said when you opened, is that, the work we've done together has impacted the way you do business, the way you bring forth your work. And I think that's a great place for us to start, really, about remembering that the more of you, the more of our creativity, the more of our value that we see and we recognize, the more of the ways we can begin to give language to the power and the callings that we're feeling, the more of that we can bring to life. It absolutely impacts our work. It impacts every part of our life, but especially what I call our sacred work, meaning our work is sacred. It's a part of us that I believe we've come here equipped to share. I believe that the more we tune into that and recognize it and start to give shape and form to it and offer it up to others, the bigger impact we can make.
It's so important. It is so incredibly important, because I think for the vast majority of us, we realize deep within us that there's something more, and that we're here to give. We're here to serve the world, whether it's within our own families, within our communities, throughout the world.
Mm.
And how do we do that? And sometimes we're maybe burdened by things that life lessons, all the other things that come about, but how we can rise above it. And in your classes that I've had with you, it's been super cool to be able to understand really how to go deep and figure out what those things are.
It's so important that we realize that the gifts and our talents and our capacities to serve are already within us. There's nothing we have to fix. There's nothing that we have to change. What we have to do is accept and allow. Not easy. It's very easy to overlook our gifts. It's very easy to label what probably is the most profound contribution that we're making. It's very easy to label that as ordinary. It's also very easy to compare ourselves to others. It's very easy to think, oh, everyone's already doing that. Why do I need to do it? And I've heard every rendition of this conversation you can possibly hear, because I truly have worked with thousands of women, and a lot of our past, sometimes a lot of our cultural upbringing, a lot of our cultural conditioning that we're still living with today. I mean, literally within our DNA is a story that sometimes wants us to diminish our voice, wants us to push aside our wisdom, wants us to overlook and ignore that which can make the biggest contribution. And I always ask women to really look at a couple of things. One is look at what you see most missing in the world. Look at what you see most missing in the world, and also look at ways that you're equipped to be the answer to what's missing in the world. And It takes some deep contemplation to get there, doesn't it? Because
oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, we want to deny it or we want to undervalue. Who would I be? Who would I be to do that? Why would my voice make a difference? Why would anything I have to say somebody would listen to that? Why would that be valued? And the answer is there's a lot of people looking for exactly what you have to offer right now.
Oh, absolutely.
I promise you it's the truth. When we can connect in with that inner wisdom, that voice within us, that truth that we know that we don't know how we know, the part of us that our life has brought to us that has deepened the understanding of our strength and of our, I'm going to use the word courage here because I do believe it takes courage. I keep thinking of Joseph Campbell, the powerful mythologist that spoke about the hero's journey. In this case, we're talking to women, so I'm going to say the heroine's journey, but it's about the woman's journey inward. I mean, the Joseph Campbell's study of the hero's journey was about going inward and finding those nuggets of gold within us that we've overlooked and we've denied, and then finding our way back out into the world to be able to find a way to communicate it and share it and open the world up, open ourselves up first, and then open the world up to a new way of seeing things that are from our individual unique perspective. And I just can't shout it out enough because it's about bringing our voices to the world, and we're needed so very much right now that we have to do this. We must do this. We're called.
Right. I have attended many, many different events where it's mostly women, and the common thread is that underlying sense of feeling that they're not worthy. Initially when the conversation is, who wants to hear my story? Who wants to, who would listen to something I bring to the world? And yet that's the very thing that we are addressing, because why not you? And I was invited to be a guest speaker to a group of women that were in their 70s and 80s, and they were writing. They had a writers group. And I started speaking to them about, getting this book out to the world, get their wisdom out. And that was the common thread, was why who would want to read something about, my story? Who would want to read that? And then why not? Why wouldn't
I think
anybody?
we use that kind of information and those kinds of experiences to fuel us forward.
Absolutely.
I think we say, wait a minute, hold on. That is an old, outdated way of telling my story. It's time for us to create a new narrative. I woke up this morning knowing that you and I were going to be connecting and speaking. And what kept coming to mind is one of the sacred agreements that's written in another book that is called The Sacred Agreement. But the first agreement is be willing to grow beyond the defined. Be willing to grow beyond the defined. Now, those words that I wrote in that book were actually written 20 years ago when I first began the journey, the search for the amazing woman, back 20 years ago. We're 20 years old this year, the Amazing Woman movement is. And 20 years ago, the first words I wrote were, be willing to grow beyond the defined.
That's beautiful.
And it took, women would say, I don't know what that means. Of course, we don't know what that means because we're so attached to the way we've been defined by society or been defined by our upbringing or been defined by the way we look in the mirror and have a self-image. Be willing to grow beyond the defined is saying, today, I'm acknowledging there's so much more of me that has yet to be expressed into the world. And there's parts of me that I know within myself that I've somehow set aside. But today I'm going to step those out into the world and I'm going to begin to see my self-image and the way I define myself and the way I define my voice and the way I define my wisdom from a brand new perspective, a perspective that really brings me into closer alignment with the truth of who I deep in my heart know myself to be.
Right.
And have somehow allowed layers and layers and layers of a filtering of that light, of that beauty, of that power, of that insight. Somehow I've let layers and layers and layers. And then somewhere along the way, I kind of agreed to that. I mean, we sort of have to own that we agreed to be okay with that. That's why I'm saying, let's let that fuel our forward movement. When we look through the way somebody has defined us or that we've accepted that definition, we have to really own that somewhere along the way I said that was okay. And then I accepted that that was going to be me. Today's the day, I believe, that we're being called more than ever to let the truth of who we are out into the world and shine as bright as we can. And shine means bring forth the wisdom, bring forth the insights you've gained from your life experience, bring forth the understanding, even your educational experience and the way you're seeing it in a brand new way. And how can you innovate it and bring it forth to the next level? What do you see missing in the world and how are you the answer to that?
Yes.
That's the question that we must ask.
Well, it's when, as you read this book, you're going to find that there's a lot of reinvention taking place. There's a redefining of who we are as women. And as we step up and step into the world, it's often the very things that cut us to the core, shook us up, just really, really messed with us in so many respects. It's often where we begin to shine and do the work that we're supposed to do in the world today.
And every woman, you're right, within this book, which is, I absolutely love the book. And I love the book because every single woman in the book dug deep. She looked deep into her life experience. And like we're speaking about, some of the most pivotal, the most challenging of life experiences somehow circle back around and show us the depth of wisdom. They somehow are filled with this richness, the gold that we're looking for. Many times we're looking for that in our outside world. Where is that? Where is that vision of me? Where the vision of us is really carried through some of the most pivotal awakening moments. And within this book, every single woman brought a unique, individual, creative, dynamic, very vulnerable, I will say, expression of how she stepped into her power to emerge. The title of the book, Amazing Woman, It's Your Time to Emerge. Whenever I pick a book title, it really, I could laugh and say that I don't really pick the book title. The book picks its own title.
It picks its own title.
On a good day, I can tune in and I can hear what that title is. We actually had a different title for this book. This book was originally called something different. And one day, I had all of our contributors were already set and writing. And one day I got that the title was needed to change. And I said, okay, I'm going to change the title. I'm doing this. And I announced it to the group. This is a collaborative effort. I announced it to the group, and everyone in the group was like, oh my gosh, it feels so much better.
I remember that.
It's so much more in alignment. And I was so happy because that's one of those times where it's like, oh, what kind of response am I going to get when I all at once decide we're changing the book title? But it was important because the word emerge is exactly where not only are the authors in this book speaking about their own power to emerge, how they found their way to emerge, the pointers and the tips and the tools and the insights to bring that emergence into the world. But also right now, I would imagine that women listening, people listening, are feeling that urgency within themselves. They're feeling that urge.
Yes.
They're feeling the call to emerge. And when I say that, I'm going to go back to that original statement is allow that sense of self, be willing to grow beyond the defined. And to me, the word emerge is that willingness to grow beyond the defined. And each and every single woman that contributed to this book did exactly that. She started out with the willingness to do that, and she ended up with an even more grand version of how she could begin to do that. So I truly believe the book is filled with insights that will support all of us. I know it did me when I wrote the book.
Right.
Pick the title Emerge for it. It's exactly the energy that I was sitting in through the entire almost year that it took to create the book. And,
and I know for myself that I rewrote my chapter, 3-4 times, because as we progressed through the whole process of it, I grew. I was changing too. And how to express the words evolved and changed.
Yes.
And it was been an amazing process to be able to put those thoughts, collect them together, and be able to express it in a way that could touch hearts in a much better way than maybe the first few.
I want to applaud you too, because in the rewrites, and several in the book did multiple rewrites. In the rewrite, every rewrite wasn't just let me find better words to communicate. The rewrite was let me bring more of myself to this page. Mm-hmm. Let me bring more of my truth. Let me show up even more vulnerably. Let me show up even more honestly. Let me show up even more powerfully. And each of the rewrites that anyone in the book did, and most of the authors did multiple rewrites, because it is a creative process. And a good creative process, when we're really tuned into it, allows us to continually deepen the connection with our own creativity, with our own voice, with our own truth, with our own wisdom, with our own authenticity. Right. And as we begin to put words to a story, I mean, I've picked up stories and pieces that I've written some years ago in books and looked at it and thought, why would I ever even communicate something like that in that way?
Because that's where you were.
Writing, you evolve.
Right.
The telling of the story, you evolve and you become more fully expressed. And it's thrilling to see. It's thrilling to see that so many of us are doing that right now, or going back, redefining. When I started the book, the first idea for the book was a question. And I start most of my books with a question, is that what is needed right now for women to step more fully into the truth or the power, the fullness of who they are? How can they step more fully into that? What is needed right now? And in holding the presence of that question, the answers came in so many different ways.
Incredible. Yeah.
Moving through trauma and moving through great loss. It came through recapturing the essence of early life experiences that were incredibly powerful in awakening us and breaking us open to the truth of who we are and the real power of who we are through abuse and through sexual trauma. It came through understanding the unique and individual power our body holds, and what's called embodies intelligence that Connie Panturo wrote about. Beautiful stories about how moving through divorce and getting to the other side by putting into practice a spiritual practice, actually a practice of spiritual study or going deep within and expanding presence, and how it transformed lives. I think that there's every perspective you can imagine within.
There is. I was just kind of paging through the book, and like Debbie Weissman is in one of the chapters, and the name of her chapter is Emerge in the Power of Unvoiced Confidence. And she says, use the power of dreams to claim your unvoiced confidence, shift your perspective, guide you to your destiny, and make your impact in the world. So beautiful. And as she goes deep in that story, and I think that for some of us, being authentic and vulnerable and really sharing the true heart of a story is not always easy. And we don't all often want to just go be that authentic and vulnerable.
Well, most of the time we don't want to,
No.
It feels
resistance.
It feels safer to hold on to the control of the way it's been defined.
Right.
And that's why I applaud. And I also want to say that it's a creative process. As an example, when Debbie was working on, I was working with Debbie on her chapter, which was a beautiful experience because she teaches dreams and the power of dreams. But as she's speaking one day through this session that we're doing, out of her mouth comes unvoiced confidence. It feels as though dreams are a way to find unvoiced confidence. And then she continued on, and I went back and I said, wait a minute, I think you spoke a piece of wisdom here that needs to be taught. And we're like, what? And we went back and we looked at unvoiced confidence, and the truth came right out of her through the process of writing, through the process of storytelling, through the process of that inner contemplation and that inner, I think at that depth of a willingness to go in and listen deep. But out of her mouth came the truth of what what I believe to be one of the most powerful understandings about dreams. And that's how we can tune into, at least I love to find new pathways to confidence. And I believe Debbie's teaching that within her story and her wisdom about unvoiced confidence and ways to find it.
And that's how she brings to the world in such powerful ways. And another chapter is by Bianca Torrance, and it's Emerge in the Power of Wisdom, Grace, and Love. Mm-hmm. And her story, oh my goodness, it touched me because she lost children, to a son, and her fiance at the time lost a son within 6 months.
Almost too much to imagine that losing.
I can't even imagine, but she said, today I know that no matter how grief-stricken or heartbroken, I must be willing to tap into divine source to find my magic. That's when I can truly emerge in wisdom, grace, and love. And
beautiful.
Wow. And
to get to that, Becky, I want to say, to get to that within herself, that's what she tells the story about. How did she get to that place?
Yes.
Because from the moment that she learned that her son had tragically died in a life experience that was just like unbelievable, and then her fiance at the time, son, a few months later, passes
within 6 months of the two of them.
And then they almost lost their relationship through this. She tells the story, though, of what it took for her to find that way to wisdom, grace, and love. That wasn't an overnight process, as you can well imagine. That the grief process was quite an experience, but through it, she teaches us and she shows us how to get there. And I did an interview with her. I think it's going to air in a few days. And I was speaking to her about, losing a son is an unbelievable. I cannot even fathom what that must feel like. But there's so many people right now going through a sense of loss of some kind. And I felt that the chapter she wrote, it touched me And I believe it will touch many that have had a loss of some kind that they're still grieving over. And how can they find their way back? How can they find their way maybe for the first time ever, to wisdom, grace, and love?
Yeah, I know that I have a author who has been putting her authoring on hold now for a long time. She lost two sons within 2 years of each other, and they were grown up. I mean, they were, late teens, early 20s. Many years later, she's still deeply, deeply suffering as a result. And she'll rise, and then she just hasn't broke through that barrier yet. And and I can't even imagine losing a loved one.
No, there's layers.
A child. Yeah.
The story that Bianca, the chapter that she wrote, is so filled with wisdom.
It is. It's amazing.
Ways to find understanding. I really feel it's one of the most valuable. I think every chapter is incredibly valuable in the book. I felt like every single author brought so much to my own life by having the privilege of working with them, to bring the book to what we see today in, the printed form. But I think each woman, and again, I'm going to go back to that very first question, is what do women need right now in order to live the fullness of their expression?
Right.
The fullness of their power. What are we being called to accept? And each woman, you can see, answered that question differently. Each woman had a different perspective on what it was. For Bianca, it was finding her way to wisdom, grace, and love through a very challenging experience. For Connie Ponturo, it was about finding a way to connect with the intelligence of the body, yet at another deeper level. Connie's been a vitality lifestyle expert for many years. I'm going to guess 25, 35 years she's been studying, starting from, ballet and professional dance, all the way through to the work that she does today with women to find the pathway to esteem within their body by understanding the intelligence of the body, to move them more powerfully into the world with more grace and more ease, more confidence,
right.
Power. And that comes by way of flexibility, mobility, and all kinds of ways of defining our body. So there's just so much. I mean, that I think I want to go back to that same, what is it that you see, as a woman listening to us right now, what is it that you see missing in the world, that that your life experience, your wisdom, your ideas, your insights, how could that be a solution? And what is it that you feel is needed within your own life that by teaching it or by sharing it could help to fortify it and empower it even more?
Don't you feel though that as more of us come to that place where we're willing to stand up and share our stories and to lead in the ways that we're really meant to lead, that it becomes this vibrational thing that keeps rippling out, and it reaches more hearts and more hearts and more hearts, and each heart that is reached begins that same ripple, and it spreads.
I absolutely agree with you. We should say that when I first started writing books, I was not a writer. I was not a storyteller. I was not a interviewer, but I felt called to begin to interview women. And when I sat with women, Becky, and I would listen and ask questions and then listen, ask questions and then listen, ask questions and then listen. And when I asked questions and listened, what happened was I saw transformation happen within the woman right before my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I witnessed and felt transformation within myself through her story.
Exactly.
I learned then that this is much more than a conversation. This is much more than an interview. This is much more than me writing a book with stories of a woman that I've met, which is the way the books first started. The Amazing Woman book series were all written by me about women that I had met. And then it transitioned into asking and inspiring women to write their own stories. But what I learned is that this was much, much more than that. It was about witnessing and honoring could even call it sacred witnessing, a story or a power or an insight that many times the woman I was speaking with had never spoken it out loud. It still happens to this day. A woman will be speaking and say, I've never spoken that out loud to anyone. How could I, I've just found the courage to say that out loud. And somehow when you give an insight, the breath and the presence into the world, not only does it transform and shift us, but it also shifts, like you said, it shifts the culture, it shifts the vibrational quality, it shifts the esteem that you're holding for yourself, and somehow it adds in nuggets of esteem into the masses, into the collective whole, to where we as women begin to see ourselves differently. We begin to grow beyond the defined.
Yes. I want to take a quick break right now, give you a chance to get a drink of water, and we'll come back, and I have some questions that I want to ask in this regard. Questions that will really be thought-provoking for our listeners, but really give the essence of what this is all about. So we'll be right back. Thank you. Here we go. So I'd like to just get a chance to have a little bit of a drink and, just to really prepare for this next segment of this conversation, because to me, this is really deep into the core of what we're here to do as women. I think that we are strong, we are powerful in many ways, and all of us have that capability. And it's kind of to the effect where you don't hide your light under a bushel basket. You shine it brightly, because in the shining brightly, we're able to make a difference and hold the light for others to see that there is a different way. Mm-hmm. So in this conversation, what are 3 steps, Marsh, that you would say that a woman can take right now to define her purpose, her evolving purpose in the world?
Oh, that's great. I love the statement evolving purpose. Mm-hmm. Many times the word purpose is defined multiple ways. Right. And one of the ways it's defined is, oh, great, I found my purpose. Now I know what I'm here to do. The first thing I encourage us to do is understand that purpose is really that sense of connectedness within. That's the willingness to live the fullness of you. It's the willingness to see your gifts, see your talents, allow yourself to acknowledge them and begin to honor them. And purpose doesn't begin outside of us. Purpose is within us. That sense of esteem that we hold. Many times I call it sacred self-esteem. I've called it feminine esteem. I've called it soul esteem. But it's really that place of esteem that is, I'm not going to tell you this first step is an easy one, because we've been conditioned. Again, I'll go back to what we were speaking about earlier, but we've been conditioned to undervalue and deny that which is beautiful and powerful within us. So our purpose within is that impulse of creativity that lights us up. You can hear it in your voice when you speak. Maybe it's things that you cannot speak about enough. You just love, you get on the subject and you just can't speak about it enough. I can hear it in the tone of my voice when I'm speaking. I could be speaking about something, speaking, and all at once, that part of me, that impulse of creativity within me that lights me up, that
Right.
inspires me, that fills me with a deeper understanding that maybe that I even goes beyond the intellectual understanding and maybe becomes something that I just feel attuned to. That's a depth of wisdom that may have been with me for quite some time. And I all at once light up. So I really like us to begin that very first step. I'd like us to begin to identify that purpose is not something that we have to go do or get. At this first level, it's
Right.
something we feel, we accept, and we allow.
That's
And
beautiful.
as we're, even as I'm speaking, I can feel women listening or men and women listening, tuning in and thinking, I already know what that is. I've just been denying it.
Right.
I can feel that within me right now, rising up, wishing to be acknowledged, wishing to be understood. I'm going to go back again. I was not a writer. I was not a interviewer. I was not a published author. I was not a speaker on stage. When my mother died in 1999, January 15th of 1999, something broke open within me. And it literally drove me a search for the amazing woman. A search for the amazing woman wasn't a search outside of me. The search for the amazing woman was the search within me.
Right.
That to me then evolved. We talk about evolving purpose. That first glimmer, that first heart opening that my mother gifted me with, actually through her passing, gifted me with, was that, I think, that inner drive, that inner desire to find the amazing woman within myself. And by the way, I still search for that amazing woman within myself.
Don't we all? Don't we all?
She's got a rich story to tell. She's got a rich insights to share. She's, these are, when we speak about our power and finding that impulse of purpose within us, it's beyond description. It's beyond description. So when I started to search for the amazing woman, I literally started going out by looking to women like yourself and looking to the women like very much like are in this book and the others that I've written. But I also understood that this was an evolving process.
Each book has evolved, hasn't it?
Each book has evolved, but the women I'm interviewing have evolved.
Yes.
Because we as women are evolving.
We are. Yeah.
So we as women are evolving, and we're much more attuned to what our needs are. And now we're giving voice to those needs. And when I say needs, I'm not talking about I'm not powerful without this being met. I'm talking about this is something that I feel is long overdue. And I'm going to say yes to this. And I'm going to, as an example, it's like bringing our voices to the world. It's time for our voices to be brought to the world. Matter of fact, it was way over time for our voices to be brought to the world, our insights to be shared in the world.
So why is it so important for us to share our insights and to consciously put into action all that we've learned? Why is that so important?
So that first step is identifying the purpose within ourselves. Right. And then that second step takes us to an understanding of, okay, now that I've got a deeper connection with the real value, the real impulse of creativity that's moving through me, the desire to make a difference by bringing my gifts out. The second thing is how in the world am I going to do this?
Yeah. How do I do this?
And I get a lot of people, I work with clients that have come to me with, I have no idea what I'm here for. I work with clients that I know what I'm here for, but how in the world am I going to bring that out into the world? So that's the next question that we have to ask ourselves, is that now that I know my value, now that I know and I'm willing to honor it with a high esteem, understanding that I do have something to say here, we ask the question, what is the best way? How am I best connected? Or how am I best seeing that this could take shape and form? For me, it took the shape and form. A search for the amazing woman took the shape and form as a movement. I knew that within me, when I asked that question, how in the world am I going to do this? I remember the moment I asked it. I was in Teotihuacan, Mexico, and I was doing a spiritual journey with Don Miguel Ruiz in Teo. And we did the Pyramid of the Sun, and we were going up to the Pyramid of the Sun. And I thought, in my perspective at the time, I thought I'd get to the top and a big billboard up there that would say, this is how it's all going to look. This is how it's all going to take shape and form. But no, that wasn't the case. And on the way down, I circled back around the Pyramid of the Sun, and I got all the way down. And as I walked, Becky, as each circle that I made, I surrendered more to the idea that I did not need to know, but that life would show me. Life would open up and begin to connect me to those that could help me bring it out into the world, that could, I'd be invited to opportunities where I could learn more about maybe ways to structure the work that I saw myself doing or would like to consider doing. I had no idea though. So I was I just surrendered. I don't know. Here's what I know. I don't know. That's what here's what I know. I don't need to know. I'm okay not knowing. This was my surrender on the way down. I was just like letting it go. My feet hit the ground, and through that beautiful, beautiful essence of inner voice came, create a day on which all women honor themselves. Create a day on which all women honor themselves. Now, at the time, I thought it meant a physical day. Every year on March 20th, women are going to honor themselves. That's what I thought. Today, I know that it is create a day, an experience, an atmosphere, an environment, an attitude, a mindset, a way of being. And why I get so passionate about this is because 20 years ago, when I heard create a day on which all women honor themselves, every single day since then, the doors have opened more. More women are stepping up in their power. More women are stepping up in the truth of their voice. Create a day on which all women honor themselves. That's what we've collectively been doing.
Right.
Collectively been doing. But here was the next question that came out of my mouth when I got create a day on which all women honor themselves. I thought, that sounds like a very big job.
Like, wow, that's a lot of work.
Spirit spoke again. I got this beautiful message that said, Marsh, your entire life you've been prepared for this very moment. So I would ask us as we begin to go in and we start to honor ourselves, that second step is, how has my life prepared me?
Perfect.
How has my life prepared me? I was just working the other day with a woman that had to give up a professional athletic career, and those can be devastating because so much training goes into that, lifetimes of dreaming, a vision held for that. And when you lose that because of an injury, it can be devastating. And my insight for her was, go back. And rather than judging that you've lost that, go back and ask, what other ways did that prepare me for? What other ways did that life experience give me? And so in going in and beginning to honor and value what I know to be purpose, which is an impulse within us, and then stepping out and asking to be shown, just simply, this sounds very, very easy, but ask until the answer comes. Ask and ask again and ask again.
And keep asking.
How have I been equipped? How have I been prepared? What are ways that I can bring this forth in the world? And then the third way is to allow yourself to be supported. I remember when I committed then to walk the path of create a day on which all women honor themselves. It was 2001. And I was developing and producing what was called Amazing Woman's Day, which grew to be, that was actually the launch of the movement. And it grew to be, in 3 countries, hundreds of thousands of women came through it. All the states celebrated it. It was quite an experience. Right. But early in that, I can remember sitting with that same dilemma. This feels like a very big job. How am I going to do this?
Right.
How am I going to create this? How's that going to happen? And Spirit again spoke through me so very clear and said, this is bigger. This is bigger than you can imagine. Stop imagining. And what it said to me, it said to me very clear is that it's going to take a community. It's going to take a movement. It's going to take linking arms with
everybody
the world, all different walks of life, all different perspectives, all different capacities to serve, all women. It's going to take all women linking arms and lifting one another. So it's about allowing yourself to be supported. So that first question is, how can I value myself? The second question is, how can I open up to ways that this can be brought forth as a solution? And the third is, let others in, let others help and support. This Create a Day on which all women honor themselves was not a message just for me. It was a message much bigger than me. It was a message that I tuned into that day that many, many, many women were hearing. Create a day on which I honor myself, that I step forward in my gifts and talents, that I find the courage, that I find the esteem, that I find the willingness to show up fully 100% vulnerable, authentic, judged as crazy at times, which, by the way, I've heard everything you can hear to where it doesn't matter anymore.
What's that woman up to now?
I remember once somebody said, that sounds crazy. What you're doing sounds crazy. And I said, here's what I've got. Here's what I've got for you on that. I am either completely crazy, and you're right, or I'm on to something that is the biggest thing I've ever experienced ever. And I held on to the second version of that. I've got something moving through me that is opening my heart, my spirit, my soul to serve in a way that will motivate and inspire not only my own life, but the lives of others in some small or great way. And so it's about letting people into support. It's about honoring and valuing. It's about understanding that you are put here for a purpose. I promise you, no one was overlooked in that arena. We all have something, and our life is pointing to it. Every single moment from the very first breath on, our life is pointing us to that. It's going back and seeing it, acknowledging it, valuing it, and holding it in esteem.
Well, you've talked about the new emerging powers that will help us to put these actions into place and to help us to find our unique life's purpose. What are those new emerging powers that you speak about?
Well, the one that I love the most is the intuitive alchemist. I believe the intuitive alchemist is such a powerful ally for us. It goes beyond, wow, I just got a hit of intuition, or I've got a wave of inspiration about this idea. Intuitive alchemy, to me, is about being shown and being guided in ways that I can not only transform my own way of seeing life, my own way of relating to life, my own perspective about myself, but also the alchemist within that intuitive understanding, that insight that's coming through, gives us the power to transform. Gives us, and quickly, just like this, if we let it.
That willingness, that's so key.
So
and the willingness to even listen.
Yes, the intuitive alchemist requires listening, deep listening. It requires honoring what you're hearing. It requires trusting what you're hearing. And then it requires being willing to take actions in the ways that you know will serve as a solution or a course corrector or a connection or a new way of saying something saying something old in a brand new way. It's about understanding that the alchemist and your intuition are very much colleagues. They're very much connected. And your intuition, I believe, is a guiding impulse within you that is constantly informing and influencing your next steps if we let it do its alchemy.
That is the biggest thing, is the allowing.
Yes, it is. It's hard, and I'm not telling you, I mean, I could speak this stuff. I'm going to tell you that I work on this every single day, trusting what I'm feeling, trusting some of the ideas that come through. It's like, like what that feels like a very big idea. Like, how would I ever be the one? But here's what I want to say to that. Your intuitive clarity could never make its way through to you if you were not already equipped to serve in the way.
That's beautiful.
You would never be able to pick up on the idea. You would never be able to pick up on the insight, the wisdom. You would never be, it's impossible for you to pick that up unless you're already equipped. So then after we've heard it and we've experienced it and we're saying, okay, I'm going to trust this, then we have to be willing to receive the guidance. So your intuitive alchemist is constantly working with you. Go here. Like I met a publishing agent once. I was sitting at my desk in San Diego and I was working very, very focused on writing and developing something at the time. And my intuitive alchemist nudged me and said, get up and go to the movies. And I thought, why in the world would
Why do I want to go to movies?
I'm in the middle of doing something that's really meaningful and I want to accomplish this. I want to create this. Get up and go to the movies. Get up and go to the movies. I got up, I went into the movies and I got into line with a big long line there. I got into line and the woman behind me said, tapped me on the shoulder. She said, what is it that you do? What do you do? I said, well, I serve women and I'm writing a book right now and I have programs to speak on stage about women and how we can be more fully expressed in the world. She said, the reason I ask you is I'm a publishing agent and I feel as though something you're working on is something that I'd like to know about. So she was so intuitively tuned in. I was so intuitively tuned in that I got up from my desk and made my way to the movie theater.
You're like,
the perfect moment. So this sounds almost so far out, but I'm telling you that I believe that the intuitive alchemist has a way of moving us into the places we need to go to meet the people that we're intended to meet so that our opportunities can open up before us. Our willingness to say yes to any of that is what's key and vital.
Well, and paying attention to the synchronicities of it all, to realize that, oh, that was really interesting, even in our dreams and, the things that come to us, the synchronicities of making it, of all the things that kind of start falling into place if we allow it and we're open to it. It's really, truly amazing as to the guidance that we're constantly receiving, whether we choose to listen or not. It still keeps coming back. It keeps those reminders of things that come right up in our face, and it's time to listen. It's time to pay attention.
It will circle back around. If we're not listening, it will definitely circle back around until we don't want to get to the untils. We want to get really good at listening and then asking incredibly great questions. Keep asking ourselves incredibly great questions to allow the guidance to come through. That leads me to another great power that we have, and that's the vibrant visionary. And why the vibrant visionary is important is that caring for our body and nurturing our own energy field is essential to our intuition. So think about that for a moment. If we're feeding ourselves a lot of processed sugars, and we're feeding ourselves foods that are full of
things that are not good for us.
Let's just say that aren't optimum for our body. And each of us knows what that is. If we ask our body, is this optimum for my body? Our body will answer us.
No.
We'll either answer us with a stomach ache or we'll answer us with are you sure you want to do that? It will answer us if we ask the question. But by nurturing our food, by nurturing our movement, by nurturing nutrition, by nurturing our nutrition, by nurturing our movement, a lot of nurturing's going on there, by nurturing their relationships and allowing ourselves to find that connection with others that really light us up, where we feel seen and we feel recognized and we feel valued. so important, so key. That's why our mastermind groups that we do are so important, because we see each other, we encourage each other, we inspire each other, or we gain that inspiration by hearing what others are doing. And energetically, our vision becomes more vibrant. We become more vibrantly aligned with our own vision. Think about how good that feels. To be vibrantly aligned with your vision says, hey, maybe I am going to do this. Maybe for certain, yes, this is real for me. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. And let me see the way clear. Let me listen deeply for it. And let me allow the vibrancy of this vision to, let me be infused with it. Let me be radiant with it. Let me allow the divine to infuse me with the power to move forward and to take action in a way that will give me the outcomes that I'm looking for, or that I know will get me closer to living this vision.
That's beautiful. I really loved the synopsis of, and I believe it's on the back cover of the book, but I think that it's really powerful in a recap of all that we've talked about today. And I wanted just to read that. It says, this collection of impactful, deeply vulnerable stories, relevant teachings, and practical direction will move you, inspire you, and motivate you to take meaningful forwarding steps to, number one, consciously use what you've learned to uplevel every aspect of your life and work and create a way to define a new story with greater resiliency and courage and confidence. Discovering ways to set yourself free from old, outdated structures of belief to step into your true legacy-making power. Transform trauma into triumph to unlock a soulful connection with your life, your purpose, and your success. Deepen the connection with the intelligence of your body to access greater enthusiasm, happiness, joy, and fulfillment. Awaken to the true power of miracle-mindedness to enrich your life and the lives of those who around you, and to close the painful gap between whom you know yourself to be and the voice you express in the world. It couldn't be better said. It's such an amazing collection. And the movement that you have put in process, and that it's gone on for all these years, and it's growing, and we're reaching you by being willing to collect those around you and work arm in arm in connection with others to be that guiding light, is a transformation that's happening in our world in many amazing ways. From those early beginnings when you said, how on earth is this going to be accomplished, to the now where you are and what you do and the lives that you've impacted. It's been just truly amazing. And I know that you teach a lot of classes throughout this whole series, and it's been pretty phenomenal, because for myself, the other women that I've met and the journey that they're on and their expression, but also the inner work that has resulted in really digging deeper to find the way that and what I'm to be doing in the world. So it's been really, truly amazing.
Becky, thank you.
So,
I'd love to say that the movement is, you are the movement. You are the Amazing Woman movement. Every woman in this book is the Amazing Woman movement. Every woman listening right now is the Amazing Woman movement. Any of us that are holding the space to be more fully expressed in the world, we are the Amazing Woman movement. The movement has its own breath and its own pulse and its own forward vision. And it's being held by a collective of women throughout the world who are saying, this is my time. This is my time to emerge.
Absolutely. So pick up your copy of the book. It's available right now on Amazon and other bookstores. If you put in just Amazing Woman, It's Your Time to Emerge, or in Marsh's name, or just put in Marsh's name, you'll see the whole series of books that she put out. It's available. The link's below. Been scrolling across on the bottom.
Nice.
MarshEngle.com is her website. Also, Amazing Woman Nation. Is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
.com. And check out the work that Marsh is doing, and read the stories of these amazing women that have shared in this book. You will be enlightened. You will be find that heart connection, that there are so many of us out here, and we are here to link arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder, and really begin to emerge and find the joy, the deep joy that comes from doing so. Marsh, you're amazing. You're incredible. Thank you for what you do in the world. And
Thank you, Becky.
as we close our show, we hope that our listeners, that you received a lot about on this, and then reach out from wherever you found this show. Reach out and connect with us. Thank you.